Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome back to the Explainer. Today we're taking all that complex source material and, well, turning it into a really clear visual journey. We're actually mapping a trip that you're on right at this very second, the incredible textbook map journey of a single breath. We're going to strictly follow the KSSM Science Form 3 syllabus on respiration, breaking down exactly what happens inside your body from the absolute moment air enters to the very second it leaves.
So, are you breathing? I know. It sounds like a totally silly question, right? But there's this fantastic infoscience fact in your textbook that points out something pretty profound. Most of us take breathing for granted, to the point where we don't even realize we're doing it. It's just this unconscious thing we do all day, every day. But today, we're going to make this unconscious act highly conscious, and we'll directly connect this daily miracle to your Form 3 biology syllabus. All right, here is our roadmap for today. First up, the anatomy of a breath. Second, the mechanics. Third, the great gas exchange. And finally, protecting our lungs. Let's knock these out one by one.
Section 1. Anatomy of a breath, mapping the human respiratory system. Okay, so let's consciously trace the physical path that air takes the moment it first enters your body. Now, this sequence is a classic exam requirement to memorize. And honestly, mapping it out like this makes it so much easier. Air enters through your nostrils, right? Then it moves into the nasal cavity, passes down through the pharynx, the larynx, and then into the trachea, which is your windpipe. From the trachea, it branches off into the bronchus. Think of it kind of like a massive highway branching off into two major roads leading straight to your lungs.
And from the bronchus, those airways get smaller and smaller, branching into bronchioles, and they finally end their journey at the microscopic alveolus. This entire intricate system really exists for one primary reason. It's to supply vital oxygen to your body and remove carbon dioxide from your body's cells. So, the alveolus is basically the final destination for the air you just breathed in.
Moving right along to Section 2, the mechanics, the physics of breathing.
Now, what's really interesting about this is that it's where biology meets physics. We're looking at how we actually force air down that pathway using pressure and volume. Consider this a major exam tip, by the way. When you inhale, your intercostal muscles contract, which pulls your rib cage upwards and outwards, while your diaphragm muscle contracts and flattens out. This makes your thoracic cavity bigger, which drops the air pressure and literally draws air in. Conversely, when you exhale, everything just relaxes. The rib cage moves downwards and inwards, and the diaphragm curves back upwards. That cavity volume decreases, increasing the air pressure in your lungs and effectively pushing the air back out.
Your textbook actually suggests a brilliant way to grasp this in Activity 2.2. It asks you to create a model or simulation to describe the breathing mechanism. If you've ever seen that classic bell jar model in the science lab, where pulling a rubber sheet down inflates the little balloons inside, that brilliantly illustrates those insane air pressure and volume changes we just talked about. It makes the invisible physics of breathing totally visible. But definitely keep in mind for your exams that this model has its limitations. The rigid glass jar cannot move upwards and outwards like your flexible human ribcage can.
Section 3. The great gas exchange, diffusion and cellular respiration.
So, let's zoom way in here. Imagine I'm your tour guide for a single oxygen molecule arriving at the alveolus just waiting to get into your bloodstream. The real secret to this exchange is a super simple scientific principle, diffusion. The inhale there in the alveolus has a much higher concentration of oxygen compared to the blood and the surrounding capillaries. Because particles naturally want to balance out, oxygen just diffuses directly through the thin wall of the alveolus, moving from that area of higher concentration right into the lower concentration of the blood capillaries.
But how does the blood actually carry this oxygen? Well, inside your red blood cells is a dark red compound called hemoglobin. When oxygen diffuses in, it combines with that hemoglobin to form oxyhemoglobin. Crucially, oxyhemoglobin is an unstable compound, and it turns bright red. Now, why is it unstable? Because it absolutely needs to be. When this bright red blood reaches body cells that are running low on oxygen, that unstable oxyhemoglobin cleverly decomposes back into hemoglobin, releasing that vital oxygen exactly where your body needs it.
And why do our cells so desperately need this oxygen in the first place? It's for the process of cellular respiration. The diffused oxygen oxidizes the glucose molecules from the food we eat. The chemical equation for this is simple, but it is literally life-sustaining. Glucose plus oxygen yields carbon dioxide, water, and most importantly, energy. This right here is the ultimate goal of breathing.
But of course, cellular respiration creates a waste product, which is carbon dioxide.
To complete the gas exchange cycle, the whole process just works in reverse. Carbon dioxide diffuses from the body cells, where its concentration is super high, into the blood capillaries. Then it's transported all the way back up to the alveolus, and from there, it gets completely removed from the body when we exhale.
All right, Section 4. Protecting our lungs. Respiratory health threats.
We've seen how perfectly balanced this whole system is, right? But entering Chapter 2.3, we kind of have to change the tone. Now we need to talk about the toxic villains that threaten this delicate respiratory system. First up is cigarette tar. It's a highly toxic substance found in cigarette smoke. When inhaled, tar sticks to and literally kills the cells in your air passages, your thorax, pharynx, bronchi, the whole shebang. It triggers a massive increase in mucus and phlegm, which is exactly why smokers often suffer from heavy, persistent coughs. And most terrifyingly, the data clearly shows that cigarette tar is a primary substance that causes lung cancer.
But hey, it's not just smoking. Environmental pollutants are a massive threat too. Take sulfur dioxide from coal combustion power stations or the severe particulate matter we breathe in during the annual Malaysian haze seasons. Sulfur dioxide is this colorless gas with a really sharp, pungent smell. When we breathe these pollutants in, they severely irritate our respiratory tract. Over time, this can lead to persistent coughing, difficulty in breathing, and severe conditions like bronchitis.
I want to issue a final vivid exam tip here, comparing two very different compounds in your blood. We already know all about healthy oxyhemoglobin, which delivers that life-giving oxygen. But what happens when you inhale carbon monoxide, say from vehicle exhaust? Well, carbon monoxide combines with hemoglobin to form a highly toxic compound called carboxyhemoglobin. This is incredibly dangerous because it essentially blocks oxygen from binding. It causes a severe shortage of oxyhemoglobin, basically starving your body cells of the oxygen they desperately need to create energy.
Which brings us to an exact, pretty provocative question your textbook asks, and really, the final thought for our explainer today. When toxic substances like carbon monoxide interrupt cellular respiration, energy production just stops. So ask yourself, can body cells live without energy? The answer obviously is no. And that puts the ultimate stakes of respiration into perspective. Every single breath is keeping you alive. So take a deep breath, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.